think we missed this button right here. Hang on, people. This one right here.
Do you need encouragement to turn tragedies into your own triumphant life story? If so, this podcast is for you. Listen to powerful guests who have persevered through challenges so you can gain strength to build your championship life. The host of Professor of Perseverance podcast, Dr. James Perdue.
Hey, come on in. It's time for us to get started. Time for us to get a little bit of inspiration, but a lot of motivation. That way we can use this stuff to help us get through our next trials, tribulations, our challenges, our hardship, our difficulty. You get the idea, okay? So grab a little gold nugget from today's episode. We're going to be talking with Christine Sadry, and she escaped communism at the age of 9 years old to lose her freedom in America for 13 years. Christine's journey to the United Nations shows the power of resiliency and the truth that anything is possible. Welcome to the show, Christine.
Thank you so much for having me.
So is anything possible, really?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay. Even the old good word tell us, anything's possible. So, all right. Well, I'm glad you're here. This is going to be interesting. Now, not only that, she has told me, and we'll put this up, as she is an award-winning author of the book 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to travel to the world serving the United Nations. So that's her book. But not only is it award-winning, 4 awards from, and just came out just a few months ago, basically. October?
Yes, October. The end of October it came out.
Yeah. So she's got, here shows the winner of the Literacy Titan Book
Literary
Award.
Titan Award, yes.
And winner of the Indies Today Award. And finalist for American Writing Award. And I can't read the other one I told you, but you said Ben Franklin what?
Ben Franklin Book Award.
Book Award. Well, shoot, I could have done that then. I just wasn't thinking. Ben Franklin Book Award. So, not that we all have to be award winners, but it's true. If you heard my podcast enough, I encourage everybody should write a book. If nothing else, your memoir for your great grandkids that never know nothing about you, but they can read and learn. And they can go, I have that trait. I'm just like a great grandma Christine. I'm just like that. So, or they may explain, go, that's where I got my nose from. All right. So everybody should write a memoir. Christine, I wished I would have got more from my grandparents so we could pass things down, but I can't. But I can move on and leave stuff for other people to get in 100 years from now.
Exactly. With these podcasts.
Yeah. You did it right there. You said it, because they say this stuff's on the internet for ever and ever now, they say. So 100 years from now, when I'm 61, I'll be 161. Somebody's going to find this episode and you're going to help them out, Christine. So appreciate you being here and doing this.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead and get started. You throw us into your story where you think it's best for us to be into.
I will start from the beginning. I was born in Poland when Poland was behind the Iron Curtain under the cruel regime of the Communist Union, Soviet Socialist Union. And my mother died when I was 5, and my father left, and he abandoned me and my 3 sisters.
Now, again, how old was this at the time?
I'm sorry?
How old were you at the time?
I was 5 when my mother died.
5 when all that happened.
Yes.
Because I was just, while you were talking, I was thinking to tell people on your book, 13 Years Lost, she said that's her at the age of 9.
Yes, that's the day I left Poland to come to America. When my uncle took me to the airport, the Chopin airport, and they put me on the plane, and they took these pictures. I was standing on the table, on the chair. So in case I got lost, they would be able to find me.
Yeah. There you go.
And one day, I was left with my grandmother on the farm, And my sisters were taken by aunts and uncles, and I heard about America from my grandmother. And she used to tell me that, this is such a land of opportunity. And, for a child, 7, 8 years old, I was fascinated. And I also knew that I was behind the Iron Curtain. It was a difficult life. It was after World War II, and it was just frightening. I saw tanks around, near my village. And so one day I was walking to a neighbor's house, and a man was there who my aunt actually had known, and he was from America. So he happened to be in my village, and he asked me if I wanted to come to America. And I said, yes. I mean, this is what I had heard. So I
You said, what did it take about 2 or 3 days to get there?
Well, no, they had to go through the adoption process and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And so in the end, about a year later, I had, I was put on a plane and I came to America. And I always thought that had imagined that I would be in touch with my family. But once I arrived, all my things were gone. My documents, all the gifts my grandmother packed,
Wow.
everything, every bit of anything from, oh my God.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead. It's all right.
Anything that I had come from Poland with disappeared. This was the next morning, and I knew something
Now, was that because
wrong.
it got lost on the plane?
No, I arrived.
Someone grabbed it or left it
No,
at home?
no,
Okay.
they just hid it all from me and put it in a room with a padlock on it,
Oh,
with a
okay.
lock. And I knew that there was something not right, that, what was going on. But, as a 9-year-old child in a foreign country, not speaking the language, not knowing anyone, I kept very quiet. I just was afraid. And I thought, oh my God, what did I get myself into? And then I tried to write a letter to my family. And after like the second letter, my adopted father said, you have no family in Poland. You will never see them again. You are ours, and we don't want you telling anyone anything about this. This is
Uh-huh.
it. And at some point, things became, very controlling. I didn't know the language. I went to school. I didn't really, in the first year, they didn't teach me much language. So I was very much on my own. But slowly I did. I learned. But my adopted parents, they became abusive. I guess, I don't know why,
Yeah.
emotionally, mentally, physically. And I just sort of kept quiet because I was afraid. I had no one
Yeah.
to go to. And even when I went to high school, my adoptive father, after 1 year, he said, well, I'm taking you out of Catholic high school because we don't want to pay for it. And I thought it was a very good education because that's all I had was how to get educated. So I went, and this was in Philadelphia. I got the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I found a job at 15, a little bit of modeling and like handing out American Express applications. And I put myself through high school. So I realized then that I wouldn't be going to college because they wouldn't pay for my high school. They wouldn't do anything. So I took, in school, I took like secretarial courses, bookkeeping, shorthand, typing. And I managed to get a job I actually was sent for an interview with the Social Security Administration in Philadelphia. And I got that job, which gave me the freedom to sort of, after all the abuse and after all the fear, to know the language and to finally get a job, to be working. And this really helped me to be stronger, even though I had no family. I wrote to my family at 18, and it was intercepted by someone in Poland who pretended to be a postman. And they tried to write to me to get money out of me. And I realized that it didn't feel like they were my family. So I stopped writing to them. And then at the age of 22, I received a phone call. And this man called me from Chicago. And he said, are you Christine so-and-so? Well, your sister's been looking. I've been looking for you for your sister in Poland. And since I already was scammed once, I was very I'm like, well, I'm not writing to anyone. I said, if
Yeah.
this is my sister, you tell her to write to me, and it has to be in English because I forgot the Polish language. And I said, if I think that this is a real letter, I will write back. So 13 years actually it took. Finally, I get a letter, and it was my sister, and it's in the book. And it's, Dear Chris, I am your sister Elizabeth. We have never forgotten you. We've been searching for you all our lives. And, so there was a lot of
Wow.
tears and heartbreak, and, to gain my family. By then I had left my adopted parents, and because I was just afraid at some point even that things would get worse.
Yeah.
And I brought one sister over, Teresa, and I wanted to go to Poland. But when I left these people, they wouldn't let me take any documents, any photos, nothing. So I had to search for, my naturalization, for all my papers to try to get a passport. And I was able to locate everything. And then I needed to go. Poland was still communist, so you needed to get into a communist country. So my sister knew someone coming to attend the General Assembly at the United Nations, and she said maybe he'll help you to get a visa to go to Poland. So I traveled to New York to the United Nations, and I just happened to say to this person who was helping me get a visa, I said, this looks like a wonderful place to work. There's so many, everyone all over the world is here. It was just amazing. And so he sort of suggested that I go and apply at the UN. And at first I said, me? No. He's like, no, go, try, get the application. You could put in for like a secretariat position or an admin position. And so I did. And it took maybe about 6-8 months. They called me for some tests. And I got a job at the UN, at the United Nations. And during this time also, I went back and visited my family in Poland, and it was a beautiful reunion. I mean, I met my sisters, the oldest sister, Elizabeth, who looked for me, and my youngest sister, Joanna, and my half-sister. So it was just a lot of tears, and the Polish language, it just started to come back in my mind. I started to remember it. So it was an amazing reunion for us. And I came back, and I was working. I moved to New York, and I was working at the United Nations. First, I started working on the International Women's Conference, which was held in Denmark in 1980. And then I worked on other international conferences. And later, after 10 years with the United Nations, I'm like, I want to work with the United Nations, but I don't want to be working in the office. So they were looking for someone to go to Angola, a peacekeeping mission, as an electro observer. And I overheard at a lunch table one of the girls saying, I got a call from so-and-so and to go to Angola to work as an electro observer. And she said, well, I can't go. So I got the name of the person. I called up and I said, hi, I see you're looking for people to go to Africa, to Angola. I am very interested. Can I see you tomorrow? So with that in mind, I met with a personnel officer, and it took me quite some time to get the releases of my supervisor, the chief, the deputy, all these people. And then I was put on a plane, one-way ticket to Luanda, Angola. There I was on the supply plane. I ended up in a region called Surimo. Going to villages and checking out polling station and doing quick count. And actually one time I came back to Luanda, we took a wrong turn and we got held up at gunpoint by rebels. And AK-47 pointing at you, you sort of follow instructions. So thank goodness the driver was calm, and he was just a young military person. and stuff. And he's like, okay, we have the best chance of surviving this if we stay together. So
Yeah.
we stayed together, and he's like, well, I'm going to put my foot slowly on the gas. And, once I hit the pedal and tell you to drop, everybody drop down in case they want to spray us, with the gun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So we made our getaway. And then, anyway, I stayed there for 2 months alive. I didn't get malaria, but I did have some reaction from the malaria medication, anti-malaria drugs. But I really loved that life. So after I came back to my office, I applied again, and I ended up the following year going to Maputo, Mozambique.
Hmm.
And there I was assigned to the capital and general services section, and I was doing board of inquiry investigations as a member. And there I met my husband. He was, I met him at a party, and he was a diplomat, a deputy head of the mission, and everyone was around him, and I just went up to say hello and good evening, sir. And he looked down and he says, "You have ugly shoes." And I'm like, "Excuse me?" I said, "You have bad taste." He said, "No, no, no, your shoes are ugly." I said, "No, no, no." So we had a little back and forth, and I thought, "Oh my God, let me get away from this." So I sat down. I went in another room. Later, he came back, sat next to me, and we had the most engaging conversation. And we were together 30 years after that. So
There you go.
yeah, so and then later,
Those are your Cinderella shoes.
yes, but there were these ugly black Mary Jane shoes, but I loved them. I thought they were beautiful, fine
Yeah.
Italian leather. But
Well, like I said, they're your Cinderella shoes. The prince or whatever was looking for Cinderella. She lost that shoe. He
yes,
just commented on your shoes, and then here you are with him. So they're your Cinderella shoes. All right.
yes.
So,
And later we had gone to the former Yugoslavia. Also there, I learned how to drive a tank.
oh wow.
We had, because it was a stressful situation, and we had NATO troops and working on a different board of inquiries and procurement, but it was just a bit stressful. So the British major for our R&R, rest and recovery, we had different barbecue, and there was a tank, and he's like, part of this recreation, I'm going to teach whoever wants to learn how to drive a tank. And of course I said, yes. So I drove a tank alone. He showed you how to use the steering wheel, which does the gas and everything. And I drove a tank for like 20-30 minutes. And I thought, wow, that was cool.
That's right.
And later I was reassigned to Vukovar, where had some of the worst fighting between the Serbs and the Croats. It was the whole city was demolished, and I lived there. There was like 3 or 4 women. We lived in this 1-bedroom place. I was in charge of, I had to set up the board of inquiry investigations. So if anyone was shot or had a traffic accident, or like there was a lot of snow there. So sometimes there were a lot of hills. So a tank would fall off a hill, and I would have to like get the, police reports and
had to drive the tank back up the hill, right?
Well, someone would be injured, so I had to do like a board of inquiry, investigation on those things, and it was very interesting, and I just really, really found that life. You're so
you need to add to your story. I had to fill out the paperwork because everybody was getting hurt, and while they were over getting taken care of, I went on down and drove the tank back up the hill for them.
I don't know. I wouldn't go that far, but no. But my story is basically, especially for women. My life was so
this
difficult.
is powerful. Yeah, go ahead. You're saying women, but I'm think this is powerful for anybody who gets to drive a tank. Okay. And who gets to witness, being shot at in these other countries and come out. I mean, this is great. This is powerful. to show come out on the other end. And as you
Yes,
mentioned, everything is possible.
everything's possible. Here I am, a child, 5 years old. My mother dies. My father leaves. I'm adopted by not a very nice family, abusive family. I come to America. I'm not allowed to see my family ever again. I have to learn the language, put myself through high school,
Yeah.
and do well, because nobody's going to hire you if you're not if you don't do your best. And then to end up working at the United Nations and then meeting my husband. So my story is that, if you just don't give up, I never looked back. When my adopted parents, when I had to leave because things were so bad, I remember thinking, don't hold anger and hatred. Just let them go. Let
Amen.
them go. Just look to the future. You take one foot in front of the other and make your life. Don't carry the burden of hatred, of resentment, of they used to call me terrible names. They told me I was dirt, that I wouldn't do anything, and so my story is, it's what you believe in. You have to rise above all those things. You have to focus. You have to, take care of yourself, but always look to the future. If one door closes, another one is there for you to open. So it's never, ever to give up hope, never to give up on yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Let me ask this question here. With your adopted new family and everything, why did they want you if they were going to be
Well, I
evil? No, I don't say evil, but disrespectful and abusive. I don't understand, because then you would think their life would be a little better without you.
Exactly. I don't know why, what they had no children, okay? And
Hmm.
so I think one of his nieces lived in Poland, and somehow I guess they felt it was a good match. Here is a family of girls, all alone without a mother, no father. And here's a couple from America, and they have no children. So I guess my aunt, I don't know how the background was exactly, but they thought that it would be wonderful,
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
that life would be great. But once I arrived, everything, they took everything away from me. I was never allowed to talk Polish. I was never, well, I spoke only Polish to my
yeah, yeah,
adoptive father, but I never was allowed to call my family, to contact them, to have any letters. So it was like, you know, loneliness for so many years, not knowing what happened to them, and they didn't know what happened to me. So
yeah,
they never heard from me, and I don't know why they adopted me, or why. I guess they became so insecure, maybe, or maybe they thought I would be very weak-willed, and just they could manipulate me, that I would
yeah, yeah,
miss my
yeah.
family. But
But that's
it,
also the people organization. They were trying to put you with them. Obviously, they didn't know their true character.
exactly, they
And
didn't
so,
know.
I mean, they wouldn't have put you in that situation,
No.
but they played their little game to get you from
Yes.
there. Um, I think it's truly amazing that your other sister, you know, tried to hunt you down for this 13 years and and just kept pushing forward until it finally happened. So that's a big miracle in itself.
She said anytime she heard anyone going to America, anyone who had family in America, she would go there, befriend them, beg them, plead with them. Please, I have a sister I'm missing. You have to, you have to try to find her. And the woman who actually found me was a friend of a friend of a friend of my sister, and
Uh
she
huh.
said, like, she once she found out she was going to Chicago, I mean, Ella wrote to her and begged her. She said, please look for my sister, please, we've lost her, we don't know what happened to her, we want to know if she's alive, where is she, so they never gave up. They looked for me for all those years.
She was looking for that closure.
Yeah.
If something bad would have happened, at least I know, and
Yeah.
now I can move forward. But if nothing's come back, she's still out there. I got to find
Yeah.
her.
Yes, there
So
was hope. Yes.
exactly, hope with it. Yeah. So that's incredible. Not that my story is nowhere near like yours, but my mom and dad, they divorced for my first birthday, and he remarried. And just last year, my half brother reached out to meet us for the first time.
Oh,
And here
wow.
I was turning 60. He was 56, and he reached out and we met for the first time.
How did you feel?
First, I was hesitant because his dad, of course, was my dad, but we never had contact with our dad. He never sent a Christmas gift. He never called on a birthday, nothing like that. But he had dad, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
but we didn't. So when we first met, first I was going, I don't know about this. First I was thinking it's a scam, like you had mentioned earlier.
yeah.
You know,
You just don't
because
know.
yeah, and but we ended up talking on the phone, and he was saying some things that that I knew, and so we met. It was good meeting him. I found out that he had been a military. He'd fought in Afghanistan and
Oh,
Iraq, and so yeah. I mean, it was great meeting him from
yeah. It
there.
makes
Yeah,
you. Yeah,
it was great
it's good
meeting
for
him.
the heart.
So yep, yep. So I'm glad we've met, and we don't see each other every week or anything, but every couple of months we try to get together to just to see how things are going.
Oh,
So
I totally agree. I see my sisters as well. Actually, two of them came. One lives in Tampa, and another lives in Cape Coral. And I
okay,
have a sister in Denmark, and two sisters still in Poland.
okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how often do you? I mean, I would think when you went back to Poland the first time to meet with your sister, I would think to me that would be the scariest point.
I was.
Going back to the reason why I left.
Yeah. Well, when I went back, it was still communist Poland. So
Yeah.
when the plane landed, there was all these military with guns pointed at the plane. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I am,
I'll never
behind the
get out
Iron
of here a
Curtain.
second
Yeah.
time.
And as soon as you arrived back then, you had to report to the police station.
Hmm.
And of course, being an American by then, I'm like, I'm not going. So what they did was two police officers came and got me and my sister. This is the first trip. They put us in two different rooms and interrogated each of us for like 2 hours.
To make sure this is up and up.
Yeah.
That
And
somehow,
why I didn't register as soon as I arrived.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah. Okay, I yeah. I don't agree with all that, but I could see it
Mm.
to make sure you're not being a spy or something over there. Uh,
Well, still,
something.
it was communist. It was behind the
Yeah,
Iron Curtain.
yeah.
It was a very closed country, so it was.
So wow. Now I'm glad everything worked out for you. I
Yeah.
tell you what, it's amazing hearing your story, and I'm going to like to get a copy of your book. So it would, I think the reading is going to be the reading. I notice is always better. I know you can say always, but most of the time better than the TV stories. So uh, so I definitely want to read to find out more about what happened here. So
Oh, and I was blessed by the Pope too, Pope John Paul II.
oh wow, okay,
When I was at the UN, the Pope was just elected. This was in 79, and I was just at the UN a few months, and the Pope was coming to the UN. So I didn't have a ticket, but a friend of mine was able to source a ticket for the next weekend that the Pope arrived. This
uh-huh.
was Friday. He was coming on Monday, and she gave me the ticket. So I had another girl grabbed another ticket. Anyway, I ended up with two tickets. So I run to the UN, to the visitors lounge. The Pope walks in, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm Polish, and here's the Polish Pope. And
Mm.
the first he walks in and he's walking towards me. And then he took a left. And so I was very disappointed. But the secretary or the assistant of the Pope ran over, took my arm, but of course the Pope didn't come back. But
Yeah,
I had a ticket for the General Assembly. So I stayed there. I was afraid, will they fire me but nobody was going back to work. So I had the ticket for the General Assembly. I stayed there for like 3 hours. Finally, they opened the doors. I sat in the 10th row in the middle seat. The Pope comes out, and this is the first day, and
yeah.
and I was just, oh my God. And there's like 2,000 people sitting, and there's diplomats and directors and ambassadors and all. I didn't know a soul because I just was by myself with this one ticket. And at one point, my body just got up. And I remember hearing an echo in my ear, like saying, "Excuse me." And I'm thinking, what am I doing? And there's 2,000 people, you need to sit. But whatever happened to me, I left my seat and I started walking up. And I'm walking and I'm looking at my feet as they're moving. And I'm talking to God. I'm like, "God, please let me sit down. God, let me sit down. They're going to fire me. They're going to shoot me." And
Yeah.
my feet are walking and I'm watching them. So I get to the podium and I still don't, I was like in a trance. I don't know what happened. And so the security runs over and grabs my hand and says, "Sit down, sit down." I couldn't talk. Nothing would come out. So the man, assistant of the Pope, came over and grabbed my other hand and said, "Stand there." So both of them have my hand and then they let go. And I'm standing there and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, God, please let me sit down. Please, God, I don't want to get fired." Well, I'm standing there, 2,000 people are sitting, and then out of nowhere, my hands start to go up. And they go up, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, what am I doing?" And then I turn and I'm standing in front of the Pope with my hands held up. And at that moment, the Pope finishes a statement, turns around and puts his hands up. So the security comes and removes the rope. And I go up the barrier and I go up to the Pope. He gives me his ring and blesses me.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my God," I just felt like, it was a miracle. It was something that I'll never forget, of course, but so wonderful things that can happen to one in their life.
Well, and again, you got to put yourself in those positions. And so, did you think, young you, 5, 6, 7 year old, that you had this? I mean, you apparently you got this go getting mentality. Nothing's going to stop you once you get fixated. Did you know you had that at a young age, or did it just all of a sudden, "I'm tired of what's going on. I need a change. Here's what I'm going to do"?
Well, I think it was some of it. I was a bit of I wouldn't say rebel, you can be a
Hmm.
rebel at 5, 6 years old. But I remember, being very lonely when my sisters were taken away.
Yeah.
But like when my adoptive father, then when he was in the village and he said, "Do you want to come to America?" I remember thinking, "Yes, I can do it." And I remember trying to convince because my grandmother wouldn't let me go, of course, if I didn't want to go. But I remember thinking, "Yes, I can go. I can help my family. I can do it. If
Yeah. Yeah.
anyone can do it, I can do it." Well, I didn't expect to have it so difficult and so tough and so lonely and so to go through so much hell, but
Yeah.
but thank God I persevered. And
Oh, you did it now. I got to stop you there. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. You said persevere. I got to push this button here. And then I got to push this button, give you a fist bump.
oh,
All right. Now let me push this button back over here. All right. You said persevere. I got to give you a fist bump.
oh, thank you.
You got it. Yes. So we are the Professor of Perseverance podcast. And you said persevere. So fist bump to you. All right. All right. So, no, I appreciate, man, I mean, just think, I mean, obviously you've seen where your life is going, but just think what it could have been if you would have folded, to the
Oh,
abuse and to the overpowering, and then,
I could be dead. I'm a drug addict. Also,
exactly.
anything. So it's a miracle, that perseverance is so important. Resilience. Never give up.
Yep, exactly. So I'm glad we got to meet here. This is a great story of definitely overcoming. So, and appreciate you coming on here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and talking with you on the
And let's
podcast.
put your book up here. Your 4-time book award, 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling to the world, serving the United Nations. Everybody look for your copy, get yours. And yes, it's July, but it'd make a great Christmas gift. So
Absolutely.
that's right. So I'm definitely give me a copy of it. So, all right, Christine. Well, I believe you got nothing else. You got me fired up today, and I
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
I just love hearing these stories of people just again pushing and pushing and pushing. I mean, the easiest thing could have been was to fold and
Yes.
just and then
Give
just
up.
take it. Yeah, give up and take it as a go. And like you said, and then got nothing out of life, you
Yeah.
know. But
And then be angry and upset that, why did life do this to me?
why this happened to me,
Yes.
and get upset and blaming everybody for everything.
Yes.
If I wouldn't have come with them, my life would have been different over there. And so, no, you did great as a young one, and I'm proud of you. You definitely should be proud of yourself, and everybody that's around you should definitely be proud. So,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
all right, Christine, appreciate you being here. We know there's people hurting and struggling today. If you can leave us with a positive message, that'd be a blessing.
My message is don't give up. It's always just focus on your future. Don't look back and just never give up. There's a whole world waiting for you.
There you go. The grass is greener on the other side. Okay. I really don't like that quote. People say the grass is greener. It may be artificial grass, maybe not the real thing. Who knows? Okay. Maybe it's because more animals are peeing on it, it's growing different, and it's going to taste different. I don't like that quote, but still, look for the good of everything. So,
And never give up. Never give
amen,
up.
sister. And you're definitely a true respect of not giving up. And again, appreciate you doing this. So, all right,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Christine, thank you for being here. Everyone else, be sure to share this out, this amazing story. Again, go look for the book. Look for the book, 13 Years Lost. Okay. There it is. 13 Years Lost right there. All right. Everyone else, hey, I'm Dr. James Purdue, the professor of perseverance. Do something today, tomorrow, something next week that's going to help you persevere past your